12305 5th Helena Drive, Brentwood, a modest stucco house in a hidden neighborhood, is the setting for the tragic demise of the world's most famous sex symbol, a luminous star who, 40 years after her death, is still an icon.
With Marilyn Monroe as Lorelei Lee.
I do think that Marilyn Monroe is the real sex star of the 20th century, and I think it is because of her combination of sexuality and vulnerability.
Marilyn Monroe was a legend.
Thank you, Mr. Samus. It's a great thrill, and I'm very appreciative to everyone who's made this possible.
But she began life as Norma Jean Baker, born in the charity ward of Los Angeles County General Hospital to an unmarried mother in 1926. She spent her childhood being passed between foster homes, orphanages, and the homes of any family acquaintance who would take her in. Marilyn knew Hollywood well. She was one of its hometown girls. From early childhood, she'd heard about the fabulously rich movie stars and their mansions in Beverly Hills. And she'd heard that alongside all the factories and plants where most people worked, Hollywood had a dream factory where poor little girls could grow up to become rich and famous. By 16, Norma Jean was married, her way of escaping the endless series of foster homes she'd had to endure. But it wasn't until she was talked into posing for cheesecake photos that she realized there was another way out.
I always say a kiss on the hand feels very good, but a diamond tiara lasts forever.
Norma Jean was immediately popular as a model, and her sexy calendar photos were much in demand. But her very first magazine cover featured her in a wholesome girl-next-door pose for the family circle.
A symbol of all the girls back home, Marilyn's talent did not go unrecognized.
For more than 60 years, James Bacon has been a respected news reporter in Hollywood. In the late 1940s, he was one of the first Hollywood reporters to take notice of the young model drawing so much attention.
The camera falls in love with certain people it does not. In Marilyn's case, it really fell in love with her, you know, and that's why she became so famous around the world.
Bacon had met her before she'd become a superstar and claimed their relationship had gone beyond the strictly professional after an innocent interview one night.
I drove her over to the guest house. She invited me in, and she had Dom Perignon on ice. We drank 2 or 3 bottles of champagne. One thing led to another, you know, and that was it. I spent the night. Yeah. In fact, it cost me my first wife. She had a wonderful knack of just making the man she was talking to feel very important. And no other star ever had it. And I interviewed thousands of them.
The screen's most exciting woman, Marilyn Monroe.
In 1953, Marilyn was a big star with more exposure than any actress could ask for.
I just love finding new places to wear diamonds.
At the same time, a struggling young writer in Chicago had his eye on the Hollywood scene for the spark he needed to launch a new kind of magazine.
I began planning Playboy in the spring and summer of 1953, and I needed a gimmick. I had no real money, so I needed something to get a lot of publicity.
In 1953, the voluptuous big-screen bombshell set off a storm in the publishing world when nude pictures of her appeared in the very first issue of Playboy magazine.
It caused a sensation. And as Marilyn said at the time, that all I had on was the radio. And I think that attitude in the conservative 1950s was the beginning of what Playboy attempted to support throughout that decade and thereafter.
Hefner paid only $500 for the Monroe nudes. Now, a single issue of that first edition of Playboy sells for almost $1,000. Needless to say, Marilyn earned only $50 in 1949 for the nude photo session. Few people had seen the pictures because of the obscenity laws at the time, but Hefner had nothing to lose. Monroe also left her mark on Hollywood.
Marilyn Monroe, soaring to new heights as the screen's most lovable laugh-getter.
Everything's fine. A married man, air conditioning, champagne and potato chips. It's just a wonderful party.
It's still not hard to find her presence in her hometown, where she rose from shy little orphan girl to the larger-than-life screen goddess.
She always went one step further. She would appear with a neckline all the way to her belly button. She would wear dresses that were see-through that nobody wore in those days.
Hairdresser Mickey Song was backstage for the televised celebration for President John F. Kennedy's 45th birthday. Marilyn, who was flying in from the West Coast, was more than an hour late.
I was in a dressing room when she was brought down by Bobby Kennedy.
It was Song's job to make sure Marilyn's hair looked its best for what's remembered as one of her most spectacular performances, her unique rendition of the traditional birthday song.
And actually, at one point, I almost thought that I had her looking like Jacqueline Kennedy. And I thought, I'm not sure whether this was good or not, but I went with what I did, and I thought it turned out pretty good. She was amazing. I mean, she looked almost like this dress was like almost like see-through. She looked to me, I've said once before, like a mermaid coming out of the water. It was one of her most photographed moments.
Not since the 7-year itch, so much Marilyn.
Penny McGuigan, who appeared on screen with Monroe in the 1959 hit Some Like It Hot, remembers the first time she saw Marilyn in person.
We were on the set, and Marilyn came walking by, and she had her hair up in curlers and just slacks and a regular old blouse, and everybody went, ah. She was charismatic and beautiful even with her hair up in curlers.
But everyone on the set knew about Marilyn's reputation for being a very difficult actress to work with, especially for whoever was directing her.
I remember Billy Wilder having kind of a rough day with her one day, and I said, Billy, you're such a big director. Why? Do you like working with Marilyn? He said, because she's magic on that screen. And she was. There was a vulnerability, there was a wistfulness, there was an honesty, there was a little girl quality, and for some reason, other people may have those qualities, but they don't bring it to the camera. She did.
We forgot about the stairs. Isn't that silly? It was very easy. I just pulled out the nails. Oh. It's perfectly safe. Nobody will ever find out. Well, where shall I sleep?